Howdy, hey, hi. It has been a while since I have done some more writing focused content on my channel, so I wanted to do a video about some writing programs and softwares because, as you might know, NaNoWriMo is coming up in just a few short months. It's like right around the corner. And so I just wanted to talk about some different softwares and programs that writers can use for writing and editing and formatting their stories. I'm going to be discussing a few different softwares along various price points, so hopefully there's one in this list that will work for you and your needs. And I'm also going to put some links down in the description below so that you can learn more about the different programs and hopefully find one that suits you best. But before we get started, hi there, my name is Emily and I make writing and bookish content here on YouTube. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Well, actually no. Hold on, let's take a moment. So a writing software, if you don't already know, or a writing program is something that you can purchase, and there are some free ones as well, and it basically helps writers organize their work. A lot of the times it can help with outlining, storyboarding, and also formatting so that when you export your novel into a PDF or an EPUB or a doc to send to an editor, anything like that, that is already in a good format for them to read your story in. So that's kind of what it helps with. A lot of the times they have spell check amongst other tools for authors and writers to use. Yeah, so the ones that I'm going to be talking about today, there are some with a lot of features. There's going to be some with not so many features. I really think it's going to end up depending on you as a person and a writer and what your needs are. Some of them are going to be a lot more visually based. So if you're someone who really needs a visual on what your story looks like, and if you're like me, like I honestly, if I could just put sticky notes all over my wall and write my story that way, that's probably how I would do it. I'm a very visual person. I need to see things and remember things. So I need that, like those kinds of things when I write. Some people don't need that, and what some people need is a space that is just for writing, that isn't going to have any sort of distractions. And so I have some of those on here as well. So just like to give you a little precursor onto what that all is, you don't need to use any of these to be a real writer. I know several writers who still write by hand or by typewriter, and that's all great and fine. I do think it will make it harder to send to an editor without being typed up, so that's going to be one difficulty with that. But you are more than welcome to write in whatever capacity is best for you and within your budget. Let's just start talking about it and see what we've got. The first one I want to talk about, a site called the iMeridian. I'm not familiar with this website very much, but this seems to be something that they do. And they ranked Living Writer as their top choice for writer programs online. Living Writer was rated #1 in 2023 for them. I will say, looking at this initially, I really liked the way that this looked, and I really like that it has custom templates for authors to format and write their story in the way that works best for them. It seems to have a lot of features on it as well, but it also just looks really clean and new. I think this company started in like 2018 or something, so they're still a fairly new company in terms of some of the other companies that we'll be talking about. It has ways to break down your story outline into chapters and also sub-chapters, which might be really helpful if you're someone who really likes to break their story down scene by scene by scene. The feature that I thought was really cool, that like interested me the most about it, is that you can add things into a glossary about your characters and your story. So if you're world building and let's say you have a character and you're like, yeah, they have brown hair, I'm going to describe them as having brown hair. You can add that into, from my understanding, you can add that into a character description about that character that you can then reference later on, so you don't forget certain aspects of the characters and settings and everything in your story, which to me that would be really helpful because I feel like I always forget everything after I've written it down, no matter how many times I remind myself. I don't know what it is. The other nice thing about it is that Living Writer is cloud-based, meaning that you can access it from all of your different devices. You can send it to people. You can use it for co-writing and editing, so if you are writing a book with another author, you can both access the document and write your own stuff separately, which I think if that's something that you do, that's super important. And if you're like me and you're on different devices, you have different laptops, or you're writing on your phone because you're on the train or something like that, this is a great way to be able to access your work at any given time. So Living Writer is a paid for program. They have a 14-day free trial, but then after that it is $9.99 a month. I think that overall, in terms of budget, this is one of the more budget-friendly ones, but it is a subscription. Unfortunately, you would have to pay every month that you use it, which I think over time can get expensive. I think we all have too many subscriptions in our lives. I mean, who wants to add another one? But in terms of expense, if this is something that you would just use for a couple months, this might be one worth investing in if this one looks good for you. The next one I want to talk about is Atticus. And I am really unfamiliar with Atticus, but my understanding is that this is a lot more for formatting your book for both print and ebook. And I watched like a little video on their page about it. And it looks really cool. Like if you're someone who wants a really unique design in your book, you want it to look a certain way, you have a style that you're going for, I think this would be a really cool tool when you're in that stage to make your book really stand out in that aspect. It also looks really easy to use and sleek and new and just very intuitive. I think you can write in Atticus, but then if you didn't and you just want to use it for their formatting options, you can also just upload your manuscript to them and they can format it for you. There is goal tracking, chapter outlines on the side. I think this is a much simpler program to use for your writing. So if you're someone who wants it to look really cool, but you don't need all of the fun features that something like Living Writer or Scrivener would have, this could be a good tool for you, especially if you really want to customize the look of the inside of your book. The cost of Atticus is $147, but that is for lifetime use. So you just pay it once and then you can use it forever. You never have to pay again, from my understanding. And I believe that includes all of the updates. It's a pretty cool program. I definitely think it's worth checking out depending on what your kind of needs are for writing. But yeah, I thought that one was really cool, so I wanted to mention it. The next one I'll talk about is Scrivener. This is probably one of the most well-known writing software programs. It's been around for a really long time, and when you use it, you can kind of tell it looks very outdated. Yeah, so, but it is probably the most widely used, I would say. It has a lot of the same features as Living Writer though. So if you don't mind the outdated look and you want to use something that a lot of other writers are using, this is one that would work. However, it isn't cloud-based, which means that you can't use it on any of your other devices. You would have to buy a version for that device. And it also means that you can't co-write using it. So this would have to be just one individual using one device on it. You can't share it and use it through the cloud. I've heard from some writers that it has a bit of a learning curve for using it. Like it's a bit clunky and outdated. As you can see when you just like look at the screen, it's like, wow, that looks ancient. But it does have the ability to be exported into Word, which is a good tool for when you're sending it out to editors or other publishing industry professionals, because Word still, I think, is the standard used pretty much across the board. I think for me, the biggest downside to Scrivener really is the fact that it isn't cloud-based and that you would have to buy a version for each device that you want to use. And also you have to pay for updates. So you get all of the versions within the one, but once they move to the next number, like if it was 3.1 and now it's 4.1, like you have to pay, I believe, to update it to the new version. So I think for me, that would be the biggest downside of Scrivener, but a lot of people swear by it. I think because it's so simple and it has the full screen mode that you can activate so that you don't have any distractions on your computer. You can't have like other tabs open that you can see. So if you're someone like me and you get very distracted by things on your screen, this could be a good tool for you to really help keep your mind on just the one project. Scrivener does cost $49.99. If you're a student though, I do think you get a discount. I have no idea what the discount is though. It's less expensive than something like Atticus per se, because it's not $50 a month, it's like $50 overall, but you do have to pay for the new versions if you want to update Scrivener over time. So you'd have to work that out. But yeah, Scrivener is widely used. So you could probably find other authors and writers who have used it a lot to give you some more information if that's something that you're interested in. The next one I'm going to talk about is Reedsy, and this is actually a software that I have used, so I can tell you a little bit about it. When I'm not writing in Google Docs, Reedsy is where I primarily write to like format the book that I'm writing. I mainly use it because it's free, but what I really, really like about Reedsy is that it kind of feels more like a community, and when you use it, you also have access to their marketplace, so you can find an editor or a book cover designer through Reedsy as you finish writing your book. I haven't hired an editor yet, but I have looked around the marketplace, and it seems really reliable, and they are industry professionals who are looking to edit your books, and I believe they just do it all through Reedsy, so you don't even have to worry about exporting it or anything like that. They also provide free educational content to writers, and especially if you want to be self-published, they have a lot of information about how to self-publish your book and market your book and all of the things that you would need to know to be a self-published author. And they really want to see you succeed, and they offer guidance in that way, which is really, really cool. It doesn't have as many unique features as something like Scrivener and Living Writer in terms of the storyboarding and some of the other unique things that they both have, but you do get a chapter breakdown, you do get a word count, you get spell check, you have the ability to move things around fairly easily, and they do format it for you. And they do have a section where you can make notes and plot out your story, I believe, in an outline. I haven't fiddled around with it too much. I've mainly been using it just for formatting my chapters, but that is something I believe that they also offer. And it's online, so you can go on any computer, just log into your account, and your book is there. I haven't had any issues with it thus far in terms of any of that. And it's really easy to use and very clean and cut, dry, and they also have tutorials on their site. So if you are confused, there are definitely ways to figure out how to use all of Reedsy to its full capacity. And it's free, so you can't get much better than free, in my opinion. Speaking of free, we have the almighty Google Docs, which I feel like a lot of people who are like me and they can't they don't want to put down a bunch of money for software at the moment. I feel like that's what a lot of people use because it's so similar to Word. It is different than Word, but it is similar in some ways. I would say the way that Google Docs is set up is so familiar to a lot of people who grew up using Word. I know that's what drew me to it personally. When I first started using Google Docs, I was like, oh, I at least kind of know what's going on here. Google Docs is cloud-based, meaning that you can access it from any device. So again, if you want to write on your phone or on a different laptop, or you're not at home or something like that, you can access your book from anywhere as long as you have internet connection. Like I said before, it's not the industry standard like Word is. So when you are looking at hiring an editor or sending it out to agents and publishers, you will probably have to export it to a docs, in my understanding. So just bear that in mind. But it is free and a decent place to start if you don't have a lot of other options right now. They did recently, and by recently I mean probably a couple years ago, they do have a section now where there is an outline on the side of your doc if you do the headings and everything, so you can kind of skip around your document. But I will say that once you hit the 150 page mark, docs really starts slowing down. So that is also something to bear in mind, is that if your book is really long, eventually Google Docs is just not going to be happy and it will slow down. So I would recommend every couple hundred pages or something like that, maybe making a new document and then continuing there just for consistency's sake. And then when you're ready to export it, maybe make one big one. I don't really know. That might be bad advice. Google Docs does have a hard time loading when you have several hundred pages. But yeah, there really isn't anything super spectacular about Google Docs other than how accessible it is. It is what I used to write my couple of poetry collections that I have coming out. So I'm definitely not bashing Google Docs at all. However, I will say with the whole AI thing, Google is kind of being sneaky about a couple things. So if you are a writer and you're worried about Google using your writing to train AI, they're saying that they're not doing that, but I don't know how much we really trust Google. That is definitely something important to keep in mind as we navigate what the future of writing and AI looks like. So if you're someone who wants to keep your work as protected as possible, Google probably isn't the best way to go. If you want to keep things free, I would recommend Reedsy. There's probably other sites similar to it that I just haven't heard of, but I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, Google Docs isn't anything special in my opinion, but it is accessible and a lot of people are familiar with the way it works because of Microsoft Word. So that's Google. And last but not least, we have Microsoft Word, which is as I've said multiple times in this video, it is the industry standard, the publishing industry standard. What does that mean? I'm not entirely sure, other than I think when you are working with professional editors through a publishing house, they're going to expect it to be in Microsoft Word or Microsoft Word accessible. There are some good formatting options in it, and it does, again, very similar to Google Docs. It's very easy to use. A lot of people know how to use it going into it. You don't have to relearn how to write your book in the software. But other than spell check and all of those things, there isn't anything super duper special about Microsoft Word other than the fact that it's what the industry uses. The pricing for Word, I think, is hard to find because when I was looking for the price of using Microsoft Word, it ranged anywhere from $20 to over $100. I think it depends on what sort of package you buy with it. So I'm not 100% sure. I think if you're a student, you also get a discount. But yeah, it depends on that. So I'm really not sure what the pricing is of Microsoft Word by itself. I can tell you it's not free. You can read Google Docs for free, but you cannot edit or work on them for free. So there's Microsoft. So these are just a few programs for writers, both free and paid. I want to know if you use a writing software when working on your book, and if there's any that I missed that I should talk about maybe in a future video. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please be sure to give me a like and subscribe to my channel. It helps me out so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.